All right, here again in New York, the heart of leftist darkness. Yesterday was the anniversary of Donald Trump's upset election victory, and Democrats actually, this is true, they gathered in Washington Square Park downtown to discuss their views and express their thoughts. Here's a brief clip. I wanted to play the entire 45 minutes of that, but they said that wasn't exactly a show. But I thought they actually put out the logic of leftism quite cleverly. The numbers from yesterday's election, this is really interesting because everybody was not saying what I was saying, but the numbers have come in, and the people who know how to read the numbers from yesterday's election actually did say much more what I said. The thing that was really interesting to me is they said there is now this coalition. The Democrats are basically now rich white suburbanites and minorities. Okay, so what's interesting to me about that is you have rich white suburbanites who are basically going to be married and have children, but they support the sexual libertinism that makes minorities' lives a living hell, right? They're people who have jobs, but they support the kind of welfare that causes dependency. The rich white suburbanites are the people who have bourgeois values, but if you tell them minorities ought to have bourgeois values too, they think that's terribly racist. And their rich white suburbanites tend to rely on their skill ahead, but they feel dismayed if any mean Republican tells minorities that it's skill and hard work that'll get you ahead. So basically what you have now, the Democratic Party is now composed of rich white suburbanites and the people whose lives they destroy with their policy. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that coalition unfold. We have a excellent interview today with Montse Alvarado, who is the executive director of the Beckett Fund, which you've never heard of, but which is called God's ACLU, because basically what it does is they go out and they fight for religious freedom wherever they find it under the gun. And it's really interesting what she had to say about the Obama administration in that regard. And yesterday was Bram Stoker's birthday, so we'll talk about Dracula. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
Well, I'm so jet lagged, and I don't know exactly how to put this. People here in New York drink a lot, and I am from New York. And so when I come back here, I tend to maybe overindulge. And so my head is now about 3 blocks away, still trying to catch up, still trying to get up to my hotel room. It may arrive somewhere during the course of the show, but I've lost complete track of time. And I realize we are already on the edge of the Klavanless weekend, which makes it my civic responsibility to tell you that you can stave off the Klavanless weekend for one day by going and listening to Another Kingdom, the fantasy suspense podcast I'm doing with Knowles. It's my story. Knowles is doing the acting and performing quite brilliantly, I think. And you go on iTunes, just look up Another Kingdom. Please subscribe. Please leave a high rating for it. It really helps us out. We have a sponsor now. Actually, our sponsor, Tripping.com, is also now a sponsor of this show as well. So it's a double sponsor. But Another Kingdom, this is the episode when everything turns around. So it's a very cool episode number 5. And if you haven't been listening, you can binge from 1 through 5. And if you have, it'll be fun. All right. But first, we have to talk about another. You know what? I always forget to wear I forget to wear watches anyway, but I forget to wear my movement watch. I actually have it on today. You can see it is incredibly fancy, nice watch. I don't know where to put it to get it in the camera. There it is. Really nice watch. And the thing is, this is a company movement, which is MVMT, because we don't use vowels anymore because I don't know why. But this was started by 2 college kids who really liked fancy timepieces, but didn't want to shell out the fancy bucks. You got to shell out to get a good watch. And I really identify with this because I love timepieces of all kinds, clocks, grandfather clocks, grandmother clocks, watches especially. But there's something in me that just does not want to pay $1 zillion for a watch. It just seems wrong to me. So this is a great way to get a really beautiful watch at a really nice price. Movement watches start at just $95. At a department store, you'd be looking at $400 or $500, and they're such great prices that they make good holiday gifts. You could give one of these to someone you love. That would be really nice. And they've already sold over 1 million watches in over 160 countries. Classic design, quality construction, styled minimalism, they call it. You can get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmt.com/Andrew. That's movement.com/Andrew. It's a beautiful, clean design, makes a great fashion statement, and now is the time to step up your watch game. Get it? It's kind of a time, and you can look at the watch because it tells them, never mind. Go to mvmt.com/Andrew and join the movement. So yesterday I was saying, you have to listen to the press. There's only one guy I trust when it comes to reading the numbers of an election, and that's Henry Olsen. He's dispassionate. He doesn't care who wins or loses. He may care deep down, but he doesn't. The way he reads it is really cool-headed. He's the guy who made me, so I knew the day of the last year's election, I knew that it was going to be much closer between Trump and Hillary Clinton than everybody said it was. Henry Olsen said it was going to be within the margin of error. And so I was, I always follow him because he's just always right and everybody else doesn't get it right. So yesterday, just unbelievable kind of jubilation in our left-wing media about how wonderful it was that all this had happened. And I want to play a montage, first of all, just showing how everybody read this as a rebuke against Donald Trump, because that's what they want so badly. So let's play that montage. That's number one.
A tough election night for President Trump and the GOP. Democrats with key victories in Virginia and New Jersey.
On this first anniversary of President Trump's stunning election victory, it's the Democrats who are celebrating now. Big victories last night in the Virginia and New Jersey races for governor, with exit polls showing voters wanted to send a message to President Trump.
A big win for Democrats and a blow to Republicans, a loss the president will likely take personally.
1/3 of Virginians in a CBS News exit poll said they voted to oppose the president.
Virginia Republicans suffered a good old-fashioned drubbing last night. This was a referendum on guns and health care. Republican Ed Gillespie dipped into the Trump playbook, and it appears to have backfired.
So there's guns and healthcare, all the things they want. This was a referendum on, and it really is amazing that 34% of the people who came out in exit polls, which are notoriously unreliable, they came out and said they came out to vote against Donald Trump. Well, Virginia hates Donald Trump, and one of the reasons they hate Donald Trump is they are the swamp. That's where in Northern Virginia all the people who work in Washington work, and so they really are just absolutely livid at him. And any Democrat who comes out and he said, were you sending a message to Donald Trump, is going to say the same thing. So that 34% number means absolutely nothing. People are voting. You're voting for governor. You're voting for your state. That is why people are voting. But it does mean something, okay? One other clip I've got to play from George Suckalupagis, the guy, this Clintonista hack who has been somehow theoretically transformed into a journalist, and he's in Good Morning America, and his version, his interpretation of what this election meant. And he's there with Matthew Dowd, another Democrat liberal commentator, and Meghan McCain, who's kind of, I don't know where exactly to put her. She's kind of in the middle, but this is absurd. I just want to play this just so you see the height of the absurdity of the commentary. This is cut 2.
2-1 in Virginia, 3-1 in New Jersey. They wanted to send a message to Trump.
Yeah, they sent a message to Trump big time. But I think the big takeaway that I had from it is the level of diversity and inclusion that happened on election night. If you not only a first transgender person elected to office in Virginia, the first Sikh elected to office in a major city, the first gay mayor of Seattle, the first African-American woman elected mayor of Charlotte, the first woman mayor of Manchester. I mean, it was a night of total diversity, and I think that not only a rejection of Trump, it was basically a rejection of what he stood for.
That's appalling. That is appalling, because you know how Donald Trump is plotting against the Sikhs. I mean, this is the big part of the Trump administration. I remember when he said build a wall to keep out the Sikhs. This narrative that they've got, that Trump is somehow a bigot, that he's against diversity of kinds of people, that he's divisive, when he is divisive, but he's only as divisive as they are. And this idea that by electing all these different people, they were sending a message to Donald Trump that no, Donald Trump, we're not mean like you, we're welcoming. You're mean, but we're it's just absurd. And this is how the leftist media makes us stupid, because it poses in order to get us to keep since the Democrats are now a coalition of rich white people and minorities, right? Everybody in between is a Republican. So the rich white people and minorities, since the minorities are just being destroyed by their policies. I mean, the cities are terrible, all this stuff. They've got to keep them in there. And so they've got to pose every issue as if it's hurting minorities. So instead of saying, how do we feel about the border? Do we want to enforce the rule of law and enforce our borders and keep people safe? Or do we want to be welcoming and Christian and open? There's a debate. You can have a debate. That's fine. But instead of that, it's, you don't like Mexicans, or you have an open border. And, the same thing with gay marriage, everything. Everything is basically, if you're not there, it's not their way. It's about hatred, right? If you want to keep the nation safe because Islamic immigration might be a problem, because maybe there's something about Islam that doesn't work in the West. Maybe that too many Islamic people in the West is dangerous for the West, as we see in many parts of Europe and Scandinavia. So you could have that debate. It's dangerous or it's not dangerous. It's dangerous, but freedom of religion trumps the danger. Whatever debate you want to have, but they won't have that debate. They always pose everything as stupidity. So in this stupid way to make you stupid. So what they argue is it's either let everybody in or you hate Islamic people and you're, a bigot. So that's the way they're selling this. Anytime Democrats win, it's a triumph for diversity, which of course is nonsense, since they don't believe in diversity of thought. So never mind that's the bias, but it's also ill-informed. I mean, it's just reading the numbers badly. Let's go to Henry Olsen. And I have to say, this was on the right too. I mean, Karl Rove, and I don't want to pick on Karl Rove. I like the guy, but Karl Rove got Donald Trump's election utterly wrong. And you remember that night when Mitt Romney lost to Obama. I think it was the second. It was Obama's reelection, when he was on Fox News insisting that they were wrong, that their count was wrong, because he had the numbers figured out. And he actually stormed down into their counting room and banged on the door and all this stuff. And they fired him. And so Karl Rove, at some point, maybe you start thinking, maybe I don't know how to read numbers. Maybe I should leave this to somebody else. Henry Olsen does know how to read numbers, and he's working at City Journal, one of my favorite magazines. And I'm going to get to him in just a minute. But before I do that, I have to talk about Policy Genius, because you don't have any life insurance, and you need life insurance, especially if you have kids or if you have elderly parents. Got to have life insurance, because if something should happen to you, that's what they always say, something should happen to you. I mean, die. If you die, you got to, those people that you love and want to take care of have to be taken care of. So you got to get life insurance. People don't want to do it. They don't want to talk about it. But Policy Genius makes it easy, because Policy Genius lets you compare life insurance from the top providers online. It takes as little as 5 minutes. If you're busy, you can do it in 1 minute per day for 5 days. If you find a policy you like and want to know more, you can talk to one of their licensed experts. But if you're just browsing, you don't have to talk to anyone. Browse away. There's no pressure. And they don't just do life insurance. You can get disability insurance, renter's insurance, pet insurance, and compare health insurance. So if you need life insurance, but you've been putting it off, try Policy Genius. You can compare life insurance online on your own terms, on your own time. PolicyGenius.com. PolicyGenius.com, because you should only be forced to speak to an agent if you've committed a federal crime. PolicyGenius.com for your life insurance. Let's talk about how Henry Olsen reads these numbers, because he's just so good at this. This is City Journal, one of my favorite magazines. Last night's gubernatorial election in Virginia is being touted as a surprise Democrat landslide. It shouldn't be. The results simply reflect the changes that have occurred in national politics since Donald Trump's emergence. That's not great news for Republicans, but neither is it a death knell. Both parties still face the challenges their changing voter coalitions present. Democrat Governor-elect Ralph Northam, this is in Virginia, won largely because Virginia is a highly educated state with a sizable minority population, and both groups have been trending strongly toward Democrats for years, educated people and minorities. Nor should one take the Democratic gains in the Virginia House of Delegates as proof of a Democratic surge. And this is the one everybody was reading as a surge, but I knew it wasn't. But if Henry Olsen said so, you know, I'm just a barefoot teller of tales. But if Henry Olsen says so, you know it's true. The surprise is not that Republicans lost most of the seats, but it was the surprise that they had held the vast majority of them for so long because the state is going blue. Still, these losses are discouraging for Republicans because seats like these are the basis for much of their congressional and state legislative majorities. Any Republican running for a Clinton-carried House seat is now on notice that he or she will have a hard time winning unless the political climate dramatically shifts. So there's a lot of those Clinton-held House seats. In other words, House seats that Republicans now hold in districts where Clinton won. There's about 23 of them, I think, and if the Democrats win 24, they'll take the House. And so that's an important point, and that's an important thing for Republicans to be thinking about. On the other side, however, and as Democrats learned to their dismay last year, America is not solely composed of well-educated, affluent suburbs. The untold story, at least in the mainstream media from last night, is how well the Trump coalition held up under fire. See, this is the important point. Trump's people are not deserting him. Trump's people love Trump, and they're sticking with him. So he's got his base, and depending on what happens now, he can add to that base or possibly destroy it. But Olsen goes on, Republicans who voted for Trump in 2016 largely came out and voted straight Republican tickets yesterday. There are Republicans challenging Democratic incumbent senators in Montana, North Dakota, Indiana, Missouri, and Ohio next fall. If last night's Virginia results were projected onto these seats, in other words, if the same kind of turnout happened in all those states, Republicans would have an excellent chance of picking up all 5 Senate seats. I mean, that is really impressive stuff. So I think that what Republicans are looking at is they're looking at a changing coalition and a changing series of ideas. They're looking at people, working class people who still are committed to the welfare state. So they're not as interested in what Paul Ryan is doing with reforming entitlements, which I love. They're not as interested in that. They're much more interested in Donald Trump. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of you. But we're going to do it in a more conservative way. And the thing is, the other thing that's been going around is this idea that Donald Trump is just a kind of wild card flying here and there. And that's because of the way he talks. And that's because of his tweets and all these things that he's doing that make him seem like a crazy man. You know, I mean, Tom Friedman from Knucklehead Row, the guy, he's in the New York Times op-ed page, Knucklehead Row. Tom Friedman talks about how these tweets make everybody so crazy that they don't pay attention to what's actually happening. And he says it like it's a bad thing. But for us, it's not so bad. Here's Friedman discussing this.
I find it from a journalism point of view, Donald Trump is a brain-eating disease. That is, he does so many outrageous things on a daily basis. You talked about Sam Cleese, this guy appointing to head the Agriculture Department, $3 billion research budget, an Iowa talk show host, shows such contempt for science and the department. And as a journalist or columnist, you sit there and say, how could I not write about that? That's so outrageous. And yet if I write about it every week, I end up not going out and learning or writing about all these other things. And I think it's a real danger that Trump is going to suck the brains out of so many reporters and columnists, because you spend 4 years outraged at him and then you don't learn anything. And he's done so many outrageous things, you can't even keep track of them anymore.
Trump is a brain-eating disease, meaning his brain has been eaten. I could have told them that. That was true before Trump came along. But what they're saying is they're being distracted from what is really happening. And I think that's not only true on the left, I think it's true on the right as well, where there's still these people who have a class objection to Donald Trump at some level. He's just not quite the thing. And the people on the right who really are exulting in any loss that Trump faces and trying to say that he's destroying the party and all this. He's not destroying the party. The party is changing, and he has manifested that. I will talk about that more in a minute. I had a really interesting dinner last night. I'll tell you about that. But first, we have to welcome Tripping.com. And I love these people because they're not only making this show possible, but they're making Another Kingdom possible. And it really helps us when you go to these places and visit and put my name in there. It really helps us keep the show on the road, because these are the guys who pay to keep our lights on. And Tripping.com is just a terrific service. I mean, I don't know if when you go on vacation, I don't know if you've ever rented a property. I have, but the thing that happens when you rent a property, it's usually cheaper. It's usually cheaper than a hotel. And also you get a lot of stuff, like you get a kitchen, like if you have your family with you. I mean, one of the things I hate about being in a hotel is sometimes you're just too lazy and you go and buy a hotel meal. It always costs like 10 times what a meal would cost if you made it yourself, or even if you went to a restaurant. But if you use tripping.com, you can rent a beautiful place, and you can have all those things, a backyard, free Wi-Fi, all kinds of amenities that you just don't get with a hotel. You can spend less time planning your next trip and more time relaxing. It's the #1 site for vacation rentals. I mean, nobody knows about it yet, but it's a really big site. Vacation rentals offer flexibility, perks, and amenities that hotels don't. Multiple bedrooms, backyards, hot tubs, free Wi-Fi, and even fully stocked kitchens. With tripping.com, one search lets you filter, compare, and sort over 10 million available properties on trusted sites like VRBO, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, and more. Don't wonder if you're getting the best deal, because you'll save an average of 18% per night by booking your vacation with tripping.com. Don't forget, if you want to save time and money while booking the perfect vacation rental for your next trip, head to tripping.com/Klavan today. Tripping.com/KLAVAN. In fact, I'll spell the entire thing. Watch this. TRIPPING.com/Klavan. Tripping.com/Klavan. Really nice way to have a vacation, a different vacation, especially if you're with family, friends, or traveling. Even just want to be off by yourself. It's a really terrific way to do this. I have to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. We cast you out now into the exterior darkness where there is, it's not such a great way. You got to listen to the show instead of watching it. But if you subscribe for a lousy $10 a month, you could be watching it right on the website. You could watch the whole thing. You can put questions in the mailbag. You can subscribe for $100 for the whole year and get your Leftist Tears tumbler. Right now, come on over to thedailywire.com and listen to the rest of the show.